So, welcome to session one of Think Like a Product Designer. Now, this particular session is actually going to be part of the series that I will be talking about. It's going to be on product design and development in the AI era, right? So, over the next two or maybe, few minutes, we are going to completely rewire how you see products, right? Let me just set the context here. Most people think product design is all about apps, at least in the digital world. Okay, it's about features, it's about beautiful user interface. If you take a prototype, for example, you take a bike, and it's all about additional features. Okay, but the reality is, in the AI era, product design is about solving human problems. Okay, in fact, it has always been there, not just in the AI era. AI has just made certain things or maybe prototypes or MVPs, fast. Okay. So what it actually means is before your solution becomes a habit, right? It's really very important that your product should be able to solve a human problem. Think in that manner. Okay. So hence I'm bringing up the series. This particular session will have 30 slides. I'm going to break this into certain sessions. Maybe in this particular session exactly, I may not cover the all the 30 slides. I'll cover a few of them, and then I'll make a part two of this, right? So we'll also be looking at 5 frameworks and 3 case studies, right? Now each one is chosen to give you practical tools, not just theory. And here's an exciting part. We'll look at some of the global, giants like Spotify or Duolingo, and maybe Indian powerhouses like Zepto, Cred, how they became great, right? Because India is now the world's third largest startup ecosystem. So whether you're a founder, a student, or someone curious about how products shape our lives, this journey is going to challenge your assumptions and inspire you to build things differently. Okay, so I'm sure you won't just understand product design, you'll think like product once you've completed the entire session, right? And that mindset is the single biggest advantage you can carry into the AI era. So ready? Let's dive in. Great. So let's start with a question that seems simple but is often misunderstood. What is a product? Now, many people will tell you it's an app or a website. It's a list of features. That's how actually I started. Or maybe, some beautifully designed code. But that's not the full story. Those are just components. The truth is, a product is a repeatable system that solves a specific human problem and delivers value without you being there. The word repeatable is very important here. Okay. If your solution only works when you're present to explain it, okay, that is not a product. Okay, that's service, right? While service and products are used synonymously in many cases, but let's talk about product. Okay, and services don't scale the way products do. Okay, so for example, if you're conducting physical sessions everywhere, right, you have to be there to conduct physical sessions. Imagine you have to conduct 2 to 3 sessions in parallel. Maybe you'll have to create your own clones in reality, or to educate somebody. Somebody should get trained, and the person will actually go and deliver it. But is it scalable? It's not going to be scalable. On the other hand, if you have a platform where you can actually record it, people can watch all over the world at any point in time, in fact, that is something scalable. So that's how I wanted to differentiate between a service and a product, right? So the word specific also we have used in the definition. Okay, this is equally important. Why? Because a product that tries to solve everything for everyone ends up solving nothing for anyone. I will repeat, a product that tries to solve everything for everyone ends up solving nothing for anyone. So you have to be really specific. Okay. Now, what is really very important if you actually, look at the particular thing. Let me just come back here. If you look at the slide, you will actually see that there's something called the product ladder. Okay, feature, product, platform. Right. Now, this is the most important mental models in product design. When you actually start designing, this is a mental model that you have to think. Right. At the you can say top. So what usually happens is you start actually building features first. But what is a feature? A feature solves one small task, right? It has no standalone value. Think of a quiz button, okay, inside an app, right? On its own, it doesn't change anyone's life. It's just a tool. So this particular product ladder that you actually see is just like a spectrum, okay? You now think about the second part, the second rung, which is the product. What is the product? A product solves a cluster of related problems for a specific user. For example, if you take a startup called Study AI, let's say, and what essentially it does is it sells CBSE notes, right? It doesn't just give you a quiz button. It gives you flashcards. It gives you some progress tracking because it has got some dashboard. And end of the day, it gives a confidence before exams. So it's solving a bigger problem for a defined persona. It's not just one feature, right? And then on the top, you actually build something called the platform, right? Because you start with feature. Now, this is where things get exciting. A platform is when other people build on top of you, and network effects compound your value. Think of YouTube. Creators upload, audiences watch, advertisers pay, right? Or think about Shopify. What happens there? Merchants build stores, developers build plugins, and the ecosystem grows bigger than the company itself. Take the example of Notion. Now, in Notion, you will find a lot of templates, right? So here, templates and community content, they turned this entire whole, platform, whole business, right? You can say a simple, workspace into such a big giant, $10 billion big giant, right? So the key insight here is every founder should aim for platform thinking from day one. Start thinking about the platform because platforms create moat. They create something called uh, an unfair advantage. Okay. It is very hard to break for your competitor, hard to break for somebody, hard to copy, right? So that's very important. So they scale faster, moats actually scale faster, and they generate exponential value. I just want to give you some facts. In 2025, just the last year, over 70% of the world's top 100 startups were platform businesses. They were marketplaces, they were ecosystems or networks, in fact, right? And that's not just a coincidence. It's because platforms don't just solve problems, they become infrastructure. You can take Amazon for that matter. Okay. So here is the motivational takeaway for everybody who is watching. Don't stop at building a feature. Don't even stop at building a product, I'll say. Okay. Ask yourself, how can this evolve into a platform where others can actually contribute? Now, this is very important. Others can contribute, where value multiplies, and where my idea becomes bigger than me. This is very important. Okay. And that's the mindset shift. Okay. Features are fragile. Products are definitely powerful, but platforms are unstoppable. Okay. So, and once you start thinking like this, you will actually, design not just for today's user, but for tomorrow's ecosystem. Think in that manner. So, very important slide again. All slides are important, but look at what it says. Why most products die. Yes, a lot of us are now excited in the world of AI. Let's build something, right? That's good. We keep learning and we keep doing, right? But you've also seen that great companies have also come up with poor products. And in fact, startups with single founders have come up with great products, $1 billion ideas. Okay. So the hard truth here is most products actually don't survive. And it's not because founders are not smart or hardworking. Okay. It's because they fall into one of the predictable failure modes. Okay. Let's talk about that. First predictable mode is, and it's a failure mode one, where you call the problem as wrong. Okay. You've chosen the wrong problem. And this is a classic solution in search of a problem. So you've created a solution. I remember one of my earlier mentees actually came to me once a few years back, in fact, 7, 8 years back. Came, I met him, and he said, this is the product that I built. This is an app, and it does so and so things. I said, fine, but what is the problem that you're actually solving? I like it. And he was not able to do that or tell properly. Okay. So obviously, I'm sure he would have pivoted. So this should be like solution in search of a problem. Okay. So teams get excited about technology or design because they always have something to build and, it will look good, but they never validate whether the pain is real. So they end up building something nobody cares about, right? You imagine building a credit app, for example, for gig workers. Okay. Without checking if credit access is actually their biggest pain. So if the real problem is insurance or savings, your product will actually die. It dies before it even starts, right? Let us look at failure, mode two, which is actually you've chosen the right problem, but you've chosen the wrong user. So what I'm trying to say is the pain is real, but not for the person you built for. Let's take an example, just for an example. These are hypothetical. For example, Shelfmate. Okay. It solves some inventory chaos. Okay. The pain is intense for small, D2C kind of brands doing, let's say, 20 lakh rupees annually. But for big brands with finance teams, right, it's actually not, right? Same problem, radically different intensity depending on the user segment. Okay. So if you target the wrong user, you actually miss the market. The third one is you've chosen the right problem, you've chosen the right user. Okay. But your execution is poor. This one hurts the most because everything was right. Okay. You nailed the insight, you found the right user, but your product is painful to use. Confusing flows, too many steps, missing the one important feature that makes it really indispensable. Users try once, they get frustrated and never return. In the AI era, this is the most fixable failure. Okay. Because good execution can now be achieved in days, not months. And in fact, if you know good prompting, right, you can do an AI itself is actually evolving. Okay. So the motivational insight for you is knowing these failure modes before you build is your unfair advantage. And most founders discover them after burning, 12 months of 15 lakh rupees, let's say. Okay. And you're learning them now at the start. That's a year of time and a fortune saved. And let me give you a real success story. I'm sure you would be knowing about Khata Book. So in 2019, what happened? They launched a digital ledger for small shopkeepers, replacing the paper Khata book. So in India, the small merchants, it has been a tradition. They actually maintain the transactions of, in a small piece of notebook. It's actually a big, right? Now there's a problem. What if it gets stolen or it gets affected by wear and tear and all that, right? Sometimes you forget also to mention there's so many things. Okay. So the problem has always been ancient. Now the user, which is actually 60 million shopkeepers, right, was underserved. I mean, I'm talking about 2019. The timing was perfect. And that time something great happened in India. If you look at the entire 2016 story in terms of digital development, it was amazing, right? Okay. In September, Jio announced, their new phone. Jio phone actually had become very, popular. If you look at that time, it was announced in 2016, but it had already been 2.5 years, and Jio phone had become really common, and it came to people who couldn't even afford smartphones because they were very cheap, right? By 2021, what happened? Khata Book had around 10 million merchants, and the company actually raised $100 million at a $600 million valuation. You may ask why? Because they avoided all three failure modes. Okay, so right problem, right user, and right execution. Now here's a challenge. Before you write a single line of code, okay, or you discuss about solutions with your team, ask yourself, am I solving the right problem and for the right user? With an experience they will actually love. Just ask a question. If you can answer yeses or yes for all the three, you've already beaten the odds. Okay, and that's how you turn uh, product death into product advantage. Hope you will remember this slide. Okay, now that we understood what we have to do, let's understand something called problem clarity canvas. Okay, in fact, before writing a single line of code, before drafting any single AI prompt, let's first understand this. Okay, so this framework forces you to answer 5 questions. If any box is empty, there are 5 boxes that you actually see, or let's say vague, you're not ready to build. That's how you have to be. Okay, so let's walk through them one by one. The first one is a who box. Okay, so you can remember like who. And what is this who? Who has this problem specifically? So who is facing the problem? And when you get an answer like millennials, sorry, that's not good. That's not the right answer. I'm into this. SMEs, when you say no, small and medium enterprises, when I say urban professionals, no, not at all. So what I'm trying to explain to you is you have to be really precise when you say who. So what's the answer? The answer is very simple. Class 10 CBSE student in Jaipur preparing for board exams. Let's be more precise. Priya, 28, Swiggy delivery partner in Pune, earning 18,000 to 25,000 rupees a month. When you mention this, okay, everything will be clear. So you may say, oh, what is this? I mean, who is just a customer? No, be very precise. So if I have to elaborate who for you to understand what I'm trying to explain, the Priya sentence which I said is the user story. So create a user story in one line. And what it contains, the name, the age, a specific designation or work that they're actually doing, right? What are they earning currently, and something else. I hope this who is clear. And then let's move to the next, which is what. Now, what is what? Understand in the context. What is the exact pain or desire? So use the user's own words, first of all. So how will you get own words? You will definitely have to reach out, right? AI will not help you. Google will not do all that research. Everything is all secondary, but you'll have to go and discuss. Maybe do it on Zoom, do it on any kind of platform, right? But understand the pain points, empathize with the pain points. Okay. So, for example, let's say there's this boy named Aryan who's a 17-year-old student, and he says, I forget everything I studied the day before the exam. It usually happens with most kids, I tell you. Okay. Because you're under pressure, That's one. You might not have read for the entire semester, or maybe you have never liked that particular subject and somehow you have to take that exam. There could be so many reasons. Let's take the example of Priya again. She says, my bike broke down. I had 400 rupees in my account. The repair was 2,800. I had to borrow at 10% per week. And when you say all these things, these are real pains, not the abstract ideas. So once we've understood what is the pain point, let's understand why now. Why now basically means why hasn't this been solved yet? So are we referring to timing? Yes, somehow timing really matters. So you have to say like this. For students, no app makes revision both fast and fun. For Priya, UPI has created a transaction trail, but banks still don't serve her. Yes, because she's just a delivery partner and banks will not lend her loans, right? Let's take another example. For Rahul, the D2C founder, right? APIs now exist to aggregate inventory, but most brands still juggle with spreadsheets. So the moment has shifted. That's why now is the timing. How big? Okay, how many people have the problem? That's the fourth one. So we started with who, what, why now, and how big. Okay. So you have to ground this entire thing in data. 14 million CBSE class 10 students appear for boards every year. That's a context. Factual. India has 400 plus million gig workers, but only 50 million with UPI transaction history, right? That's maybe a solution called Pay Easy first market. Or let's take another example. 100,000 D2C brands sell online, 30,000 across multiple platforms, right? When you say like this, you can come up with a solution called Shelfmate, right? So numbers make the real opportunity. Or I will say it differently, numbers make the opportunity actually real. The last one is the proof. Okay, what evidence do you have? Now, what does this mean? It means when you go and talk to customers, you collect data, right? For example, Priya story is backed by, uh, you know, some kind of research, let's say 70, and it's very important, 73% of low income households face a financial shock last year with no formal solution. The Rahul Spain is backed by some kind of unicommerce, let's say 68% of multi-channel sellers supported. What I'm trying to tell you is these user stories can be multiple. They will look alike. Okay. The underlying problem will remain same. Why don't you do a secondary research? Okay. So any kind of, research site can actually explain to you and then try to understand. So that's the basic meaning. It will give you more confidence. Okay. So the motivational inside here is most founders skip this canvas because it feels like homework. But this is the difference between building something fragile and building something really fundable. And I'm sure everybody here watching wants a fundable one, right? If you can fill all the 5 boxes with specificity, you've actually beaten half the odds. So your challenge would then be grab a notebook right now and answer 5 questions for a problem you personally care about or you have faced. You want a solution for it. But if you can't answer them clearly, I'll tell you, don't build yet. But if you can, you're ready to design with confidence. Okay. So clarity before code, which is very important. That's the unfair advantage of the problem. Clarity. In one line, if I have to put it, clarity before code. Great. Now it's time to stop listening and start doing, right? This particular exercise is very simple, but it's powerful. Map a real problem you care about right now. Grab a notebook, open your phone notes, whatever works, right? And so here we are going to answer 5 questions together. Question number 1 is, who do you know personally who has a real frustration or unmet need? Maybe you can think of a friend, a family member, a colleague, someone whose pain you have seen up close, right? Your question number 2 is, what exactly do they complain about? And they complain about repeatedly, not once, not casually, but the thing they keep coming back to, right? That's where the real problem lives. Question 3 is, what workaround do they use today? In India, we call it as jugaad, right? Maybe it's Excel, maybe it's WhatsApp, maybe it's pen and paper. Workarounds are good, right? They can be gold, but they prove to be the problem is real, right? Question number 4. If this was solved perfectly, what would change in the daily life? Would they save hours? Okay. Would they feel less stressed? Would they have, them earn more money? Imagine the transformation. Question 5 is, could 10,000 people in India have the same problem? And trust me, when I say 10,000, it's actually I'm meaning a large number. Because if it's your just a friend, it's a service. If it's 10,000 people, it's a product opportunity. Okay, so what I'm trying to introduce you in a very subtle language is I'm trying to tell you that the market should be large. Let me give you an example here. Again, I'll take that boy's Aryan's example who lives in Jaipur, is 17. Right. He says, I forget everything I studied the day before the exam. And this is actually not a complaint. That's a product insight. So Study AI is an app that he has actually built to solve exactly that pain. And the motivational takeaway here, reading all these is every billion-dollar product started with one person's frustration, at least. Okay. Spotify started with one person tired of, buying CDs, maybe. Zepto started with one person frustrated about waiting an hour for groceries. Khata book started with one shopkeeper tired of paper ledgers. So right now, don't just watch. You need to participate. Okay, write down all your 5 answers, and this is your first step toward building something real. And remember one thing, right? Clarity comes from honesty. And if you can map the one real problem today, you are already thinking like a product designer. Now let's talk about the difference between a product people use and product people love. Now, these are two different things. Lovable products don't just solve problems, they deliver one promise so well. Okay, it becomes part of their identity. Let's look at 3 examples. Let's take the example of Spotify. Personalization at scale. Spotify didn't just uh, music stream. They stream music. Okay, it made people feel seen by an algorithm. Discover weekly. Right. If you wasn't just a playlist, if you have used, it was 300 million people saying, "Wow, this app knows me better than I know myself." That's called love. That's love. The promise. The promise is very simple. We will help you discover music that feels personal, and they discovered it consistently. And they've then, over a period of time, no, multiple features. You can share the same music with your friend and you can actually watch all that is happening. Take the case of Duolingo. Very simple. Habit, design, mastered. right? So learning a language is really hard at the beginning. Most apps were built and they failed because people quit after a week. But Duolingo actually engineered habit. Okay, you have streaks, shame, celebration, everything, every psychological lever to keep you, coming back. It wasn't about grammar, it was about your identity. Okay, which is like, I'm the kind of person who keeps my streak alive. That's love. Zepto, speed as the product. Yes, speed as the product. You think that, oh, come on, I'm buying vegetables or I'm buying something else. No. So in India, Zepto didn't just deliver groceries, it made speed the entire promise. 10 minutes wasn't a feature, it was the product itself. Every decision flowed from that identity, and users love it. In fact, they loved, right, and because it solved the one pain they cared about. What was that? That was waiting. We don't want to wait. So look at the pattern. Lovable products pick one promise and deliver it so well, it becomes the brand. Spotify, if you talk about it, it's all about discovery. Duolingo, it's about habit. And Zepto is like speed. And these are their uh, unique value propositions also. So here's the motivational insight. You don't need 50 features to be lovable. You just need one promise executed fantastically. Think about it. Uh, what's the one promise your product could deliver so well that users would say, oh, this is who I am now, and this part of me? Because lovable products won't just, win markets, they win hearts. And once you win hearts, you have actually built something that competitors can't copy. So you can ask yourself, what's the one promise your product will deliver so well it becomes identity? So here's a mindset shift, okay, that will change how uh, you build forever. Okay, so people don't buy products actually; they hire them to do a job. I'll tell you. So one of the very famous professors, Clayton Christensen, right? In fact, there's a framework called jobs to be done. The formula is very simple. Right? Is that you can template it. When I mention the situation, after that, once the situation is there, I want to what? What is your motivation? Then so I can an outcome. So there are three things. You start with situation, then motivation and outcome. Let's fill this. I'll take that study A example. When I'm situation revising the night before exams, this is my situation. I want to, and what's the motivation? Test myself on key concepts so I can feel confident and not blank out. The outcome was very simple. I can feel confident and not blank out. That is what we want. Okay. So, how the job isn't use flashcards. The job is confidence before exams. That's the real outcome. You take the example of a busy parent, right? On the other hand, just because parents will have to pay maybe. When I run out of groceries at 9 p.m., right? I want someone to deliver in 10 minutes so I don't have to go out with my kids. It's late, 9 p.m. You're in hurry, right? So the job is not about ordering groceries. The job is convenience and peace of mind. You take the freelancer example. When I need to send an invoice, I want a single click to generate and send it. So I look professional without wasting an hour. The job isn't about, to create invoices. The job is credibility and time saved. Now, if you connect this to the, case studies, some of the case studies, Let's take an example of an app called PayEasy, which is a fintech. Priya, who is a gig worker, isn't hiring, PayEasy for credit. She's actually hiring it for control over her finances and freedom from money lenders, right? Let's take another example called Shelfmate, which is an e-commerce platform. And here our user is Rahul. Rahul, who is a D2C founder, isn't hiring Shelfmate for dashboards. He's hiring it for sleep at night during Diwali sales and confidence. He won't miss, revenue. Take the case of SkillBridge, which is a platform. These are, by the way, all the dummy examples, right? And if there is a real example somewhere, I mean, it would be just a coincidence, I'll say. So Anita, for example, for SkillBridge, a homeowner, and she's not hiring SkillBridge for finding a plumber. Okay, she's hiring it for trust, reliability, and peace of mind. If you want to understand the global case study, we have the example of Razorpay. So when Razorpay launched payment gateways, already existed, of course, but developers maybe refused them or did not like them, right? Because integration actually took 6 to 8 weeks with endless paperwork, and Razorpay nailed that job to be done. And what is that? When I am a developer trying to add payments to my app, I want to integrate in under an hour with clean documentation so I can ship my product fast. That precision turned Razorpay into a 7.5 billion company. And trust me, if you take the Razorpay, you will find that yourself. So here's the motivational insight. Your biggest competitor is not another app. It's the workaround your user already has. Maybe the spreadsheet, the WhatsApp group, the money lender, the neighbor's referral. If your product isn't faster, easier, or more reliable than the workaround, it won't win. So your challenge is then write your JTBD, right? That is jobs to be done statement for your user. For example, for Aryan study, it might be when I'm revising the night before exam, I want quick self tests on my phone so I can feel confident and not forget everything. Test it on a real person. If they nod and say, yes, that's exactly me, you've nailed it. If they look confused, make it more specific. Because once you've understood the job your product is hired to do, every design decision becomes clear. And you have to remember one thing, people don't buy features, they hire products to change their lives. So now let's take a real world case study, which is of Zomato. Now, at first glance, Zomato looks like a food delivery app. But if you dig deeper, you will see why it beats restaurants at their own game. So let's understand the JTBD, right? Jobs to be done. From the customer's perspective, of course. The customer says, when I'm hungry at home, I want food delivery quickly and reliably so I can eat without leaving the house. Very simple JTBD. Restaurants were never designed to solve this job. So their JTBD was, when I want to dine out, I want a place to eat so I can enjoy food and atmosphere. The delivery was an afterthought. Now, Zomato flipped the script. It said, we are not competing with restaurants on food quality. We are competing on convenience, speed, and reliability. And that's why users hire Zomato. Now, look at the platform layer. Zomato isn't just connecting customers to restaurants, it's orchestrating an ecosystem. Customers get convenience, restaurants get incremental sales, delivery partners get income, advertisers get attention. Each side of the platform is solving a different job, but Zomato integrates them separately. That is why it scales. So here is the motivational insight. Zomato didn't win by cooking better food. It won by solving a different job better than restaurants ever could. And that's the lesson for you. Your competition isn't always who uh, you know uh, you think it is. If you define the job precisely, you will see opportunities others miss. So think about it. Spotify didn't compete with CDs, right? It competed with the job of discovering music effortlessly. Similarly, the earlier case that we saw, Duolingo, didn't compete with textbooks. It competed with the job of building a daily habit. Zomato didn't compete with restaurants. It competed with the job of feeding people at home without friction. So here's your challenge. Write down your product's JTBD, then ask yourself who's currently solving it, badly, and that's where your opportunity lies. Remember, you don't have to beat competitors at their game. You just have to define the job better and then win at that. Correct. So let's talk about the something which is really important. That is the user personas. Okay. Now, when you look at the user persona, what is persona? It's a you can say a hypothetical understanding of your customer. Not exactly hypothetical, but I'll say archetype. Okay, it will be so one person who can represent the entire group of your customers. So you have to get the persona actually right. Okay. The wrong way would be Priya, so one person's name, 24, which means age, urban, tech savvy, likes yoga. What are the other things? Vague demographic labels if you actually look at. Okay. No specific situation, no real pain, and there's no story, right? There's no behavior data also. So could describe 50 million people, right? So useless for, let's say, product decisions. But what could be the right way? Let's elaborate it. Okay. So what you see is Aryan class 10 Jaipur boards in 4 months. Okay. So there's a situation. Studies 2 hours per day, but forgets 70% next day. Right. Uses YouTube plus handwritten notes today. Right. Frustrated. No quick self test on phone. If you talk about success, is all about confidence. What he wants is confidence on exam day. So every product decision has a test, right? So the question is, would Aryan use this? That's the point. And so all the Aryans which are available will actually use it. So this is really very important. Okay. Now let's move to something called the empathy map. Okay. The truth is, products don't lie in spreadsheets. Okay. They live in people's lives. And to design something people truly adopt, you need empathy. You need to feel the pain. You have to keep yourself in the shoes of the customer, right? So that's where the empathy map comes in. If you look at the empathy map, it has got 4 quadrants and there are 2 outcomes. Let's first of all have an understanding of each. First one is thinks and feels, which means what's going on inside. Now, these are fears, these are hopes, these are anxieties that users, rarely say out loud. So when you say thinks and feels, who thinks and feels? It's the customer, it's the user. Okay, let's take an example. Priya, who's a gig worker, she thinks, if my bike breaks down again, I don't know what I'll do. I can't keep asking colleagues for help. That's the emotional reality behind the product, which is Pay Easy, the example that we're taking. The second one is sees. Okay. So what do you mean by that? What's in their environment? Okay. What they actually see. So what do you observe around them? What's normal in their world? Let's take the example of Rahul, the D2C founder, who sees competitors running out of stock during Diwali sales. He sees API is available, but underused. right? His environment tells him inventory chaos is common and costly. The third one is says and does, which means what's the gap between words and actions? Users often say one thing but do another. That's also so you can't fully rely, right? So always understand the pattern. Let's take the example of a homeowner whose name is Anita. She says, I manage fine, but in reality, what happens is she spends hours calling unreliable, plumbers from just dial. And that gap is a design opportunity, in fact, for a product called Skill Bridge. The fourth one is here's, which means what advice or noise surrounds them, right? Friends, family, media, all shaping their perception. Let's take the example of Priya. Priya hears loans are dangerous. Banks don't give money to people like us. Remember, Priya is a gig worker. That narrative shapes her hesitation, even when a fair solution exists. And below the quadrants, right, we capture two important things. One is the pains, and second one is the gains. What are the pains? Pains are frustrations, obstacles, fears. What are the gains? Gains are the success state, the relief, the aspiration, right, which can bring them the delight. So, the motivational insight here is the empathy map forces you to stop thinking like a builder and start thinking like a human. It reminds you that products aren't just functional, they are emotional and social. Take the example of Spotify. Spotify didn't win because of streaming. It won because people felt seen. Duolingo didn't win because of grammar. It won because people felt proud of their streak. So pay easy won maybe because Priya felt in control of her finances. So here's your challenge: pick one user you care about, fill in all four quadrants honestly, and if you can capture what they think, they say, they see, and hear, you will design not just a product but a lovable solution, right? So empathy isn't soft; it's the sharpest tool in the product design. So you can actually go ahead and do that. This is a template for you, right? And in fact, you can take the example of Aryan and study AI, right? Try to have work in pairs. If you already have a partner or two or three people are there, please try, right? Okay. So I will move on, or maybe you can pause and first do this exercise for the next 10 minutes and then you can actually watch. Okay. Yes. So here is the new thing: minimum lovable product. I don't know if you've ever heard of something called minimum viable product, and this is very common, but I'm introducing minimum lovable product, MLP. Most founders are told to build an MVP. Yeah, this is true. I think in long back when this entrepreneurship education or these terms actually evolved, MVP, became very famous in the product development world or even in startups, right? Or in the lean startup world, I will say. So MVP stands for a minimum viable product. But here is a problem with this. Viable is not enough anymore. We are living in the AI world in 2026, right? In this era, execution is extremely fast. I mean, you will not take hours to build a Figma design or a whimsical design, right? You just give some prompts, and if you're very good at prompt engineering, you're using a good AI. In fact, most of them really do advanced jobs. In next 30 minutes, after a few iterations, you can get a final product done, right? So in this AI era, obviously competition is global and users have endless choices. So if your product is just viable, it will get ignored, right? And hence, it's very important that we should introduce the concept of MLP. In fact, MLP has always been there, right? The founder of Cred, Kunal Shah, in fact, uses this. In fact, he says minimum awesome product should be there, right? So with the first product, the user, they should actually fall in love. So an MLP doesn't function, uh, just like that. It delights you. It makes users smile. It makes them feel seen. It makes them, want to come back tomorrow. You just go and watch Steve Jobs 2007 video, right? The famous, the first iPhone launch video. Amazing, outstanding. It was an MLP, trust me. It just revolutionized the world. Okay. But let me come back to the slide and let me take the example. Okay. Spotify's MLP, for example, is it wasn't streaming, right? It was Discover Weekly. One playlist that made millions of people feel personally understood. Take the example of Duolingo's MLP. Okay. It wasn't grammar lessons, it was streaks, the emotional hook that turned learning into identity. Take the example of Zepto's MLP. It wasn't groceries, it was 10-minute delivery, speed at the entire promise. So, notice the pattern. Each MLP picked one promise and delivered it fantastically, I'll say. Or maybe I'll use a word called fanatically, right? They were fanatic, they were just mad about that. So that's what made them, lovable. So let's connect this with some of the personas that we have taken in our hypothetical case studies, like Priya's MLP moment with, pay easy. It's not just credit. It's actually that feeling of control. No more begging, colleagues or money lenders. Rahul's MLP moment with Shelfmate. It's not about dashboards. It's the WhatsApp alert that saves him from losing lakhs in sales. Actually, Anita's MLP. Let's talk about, right. So MLP moment with will be with Skill Bridge, and it's not about listings. It's the trust that the plumber will show up on time at a fair price. So, motivational insight for you is your MLP is the sharpest version of your product's promise. It's the one thing that makes users say, I can't imagine life without this. So, take this as a challenge. Don't just ask, what's the minimum I can build? Ask, what's the minimum I can build that someone will love? Because viable gets you launched, lovable gets you remembered. And in today's world, remembered is the only thing that matters. Okay, so here is some comparison: MLP versus MVP versus MMP. MMP is actually minimum marketable product, and this is very important. Means you can actually go out and sell it. So there are some parameters on the basis of which we can actually compare. So the goal, use the parameter goal. MVP's goal is to test the assumption, right? MLP's goal is to create actually delight, and MMP is, it's very simple, generate revenue. Okay, among all these these three, there's something in between which will lie, that's called minimum awesome experience also, and that will be or minimum viable experience, MVE, whatever you may call, because unless you get the output from that experience, right, as a user, you won't be able to rate it. Okay, then comes the quality. Okay, for MVP, the quality will always be rough. MLP, it will be polished where it matters. So therefore, the first product today will always be good, at least in terms of look and feel, and maybe in terms of use also. Whether it's serving the functionality, it is following the JTBD framework. That's a different case. Then it has to be market ready in case of MMP. Okay, so who is the user of MVP? It's the tester, or it's somebody who is at early bird, right? You launch your first product, you give early bird discounts. I'm going to do very fast for AI-Praxis, right? And so that's how it is. Okay, then comes polished. Sorry, I was reading the earlier one. MLP. Who? So for MLP, somebody will be your fan or will be your advocate. They will tell others about your product. Hey, this is a great product. Go and buy. And MMP will be, there will be always paying customers. Okay, you will see the business running. So we have to focus right now on MLP. Then in the AI era, of course, right, MVP you can skip. There's no point. MLP, start from here, right? And then, of course, keep iterating and see what is going to happen, right? So MMP will always be after MLP. Okay. So let's talk about there's something called the MLP design matrix. Okay. Now that we have actually learned what MLP is, it's very important how to design this deliberately. And that's where we have to introduce MLP design matrix. Okay. So look at the entire table. It's actually a tool that combines everything we have learned. Okay. You will see empathy maps, personas, and JTBD. So persona is that representation of your one customer. Okay. If your customer is an individual, code like Priya or Aryan, right? You may have 10,000 Priyas or even more than that. If you're selling it to B2B, that is business to business, in that case, it could be your persona could be the decision maker of the other company who is your client. Okay. Could be at a CXO level, could be a chief financial officer or a chief, HR officer, somebody who is going to make decisions, chief operating officer maybe, or the CEO herself. Okay. And of course, we're using the JTBD, right, into one single decision making framework. So this is therefore very important. Right. So step one is very simple. Start with a persona. Pick one real person, not a demographic, not any vague profile. We have already seen Priya, the gig worker, Rahul, the D2Z founder, Anita, the homemaker, Aryan. We're taking, Aryan's example here, study AI. Specificity is the foundation. Okay. Right. So in case of Aryan, if you look at must have core promise, yeah. So are there flashcards? Yes. Is there a quiz mode? Yes. So it's all in. Okay. There's nothing like nice to have, should have, or never. So is always at the best position. Step number two, if you look at map their empathy. Okay. Fill in the four quadrants. Okay. What they think, feel, what they see, what they do, say and do, and what they hear. This gives you the emotional and social context around the pain. Of course, step number three is you define the JDBD, right? You remember that framework when that situation, I want to, then motivation, so I can, the outcome, right? This sharpens your functional, emotional, and social job, okay, of your product. In fact, these are the three JTBDs that you actually see, uh, right, in the jobs section of the JTBD framework, because JTBD framework, considering a customer in mind, will have essentially three things. You will have the JTBD, of course, which is the jobs, right? Jobs to be done. You will also have pains and you'll also have gains. Okay. Next one is identify the lovable hook. Ask, what's the one promise that, if delivered perfectly, would make this product indispensable? In case of Priya, it's control over her finances. For Rahul, it's the sleep at night during Diwali sales. For Anita, it's the trust that plumber will show up on time. Okay. And step number five is then design that minimum experience. I was just talking about that. And it should not be that minimum experience, should be awesome experience. So strip away everything else, build on the features that deliver the lovable product. Don't have to think of too many features. Okay. I could have recorded this entire thing, using a lot of graphics and things coming up. But I thought, no, I think a lot of videos on the internet, not exactly of this content, but they're coming up, they're trying to engage. But let me also try to give you a thorough understanding of what is happening. And I'm expecting you to be patient because the videos are a little longer, right? So obviously that also shows up that how ardent you're a builder that way. Okay. So yeah, so I was talking about the motivation insight, right? It's very important, right, that MLP design matrix forces discipline. It stops you from building any kind of bloated MVPs that nobody likes or nobody loves. It ensures that your version is very sharp, emotional, and unforgettable. You can think about I mean, those examples that we're taking, Spotify didn't launch with every feature. It launched with the Discover Weekly. Duolingo didn't launch with every language. It launched with streaks. Okay. Then you look at Zepto. It didn't launch with every grocery category. It launched with 10-minute delivery. So here's your challenge. Take your product idea, run it through the MLP, design matrix. Okay, and ask yourself, what's the one promise I can deliver so well that users will fall in love with it? Because in today's world, viable gets you launched, lovable gets you remembered. Okay, and it's very important. Um, you know, yeah. So remembered is the only thing that really matters. Correct. I think this matrix is something that you will remember. Okay. So before we go any further, I need to tell you the greatest comeback story in modern product history about Notion. It's a global company founded in 2016. It got relaunched in 2018. Valuation $10 billion. Yes, $10 billion by 2021, right? But the numbers that matter most are not the dollars, the billions, right? They are the two people. That's how small the team got in 2016. Notion built this wildly ambitious tool, everything for everyone. And you know what happened? Nobody used it, I'll tell you. They ran out of money. The team collapsed down to, just two people, right? Uh, Ivan, Zoho, and, one other co-founder. That's it. So dead company walking. It's like that. So what did they exactly do? They didn't add more features. They didn't chase trends. Uh, they went into hiding for 2 years, right? 2016 to 2018, and bet everything on one single insight. And that insight is people hate switching between 10 apps. Okay, 10 notes in one place, spreadsheets in another, wikis, somewhere else, project management in another. It was driving people insane. So in 2018, they relaunched with one bold bet, a block based workspace for everything, everything in one place. That was the entire pitch. Now look at their MLP, because this is where they got ruthless. The minimum lovable product was exactly three things: notes, database, and pages. That's it. There was no AI, of course, no integrations, no team features, no calendar sync, no Slack plugin, just the core promise, everything in one place. They stripped it down to the bone, and that bone was solid. Then came 2020, and you all know what happens, right? Product led, growth, and here's the genius. Every single shared Notion page was advertisement. If you shared a page with someone, they saw Notion, they used Notion, they wanted Notion. 4 million users, 4 million without a sales team, zero salesperson, right? So virality wasn't a marketing strategy, it was baked into the product itself. So the lesson here is sometimes you have to do, you maybe, not just do, but you have to die first. You have to cut your team into maybe two people, cut your features to three, and bet everything on one insight. That's how you go from 0 to $10 billion. Okay, so let's talk about one of the most psychologically brilliant products ever built in India, Cred. Right, founded in 2018 by Kunal Shah. I remember I was at, I think, Delhi airport at T3 or T2, I don't remember. And I just took the Times of India newspaper, and the first page was this black advertisement of Cred, right? Very nicely done. Because Kunal had already, done his earlier venture, right? So question is, what is the valuation? What was the valuation? $6.4 billion by 2021. But here's the wild part. Cred didn't invent a new behavior. They didn't ask 7 million Indians to do something they would never, done before. They took something people already hated doing, paying, credit card bills, and made it feel like a status symbol. In fact, that's not the case altogether. The case is people usually forget to pay bills. Trust me, yeah, when you have three pillars, write these down. The first one is exclusivity as product. Cred always said, sorry, not everyone gets in. You need a credit score of 750 plus or above. Now think about that. Most apps beg you to sign up. Cred rejected people, and that rejection, it made people when wanting more. Membership became status. It became, I'm the kind of person who used cred. Second, rewards for existing habit. This is the JTBD stroke. The job is pay my card bill. That's it. Something 7 million Indians already had to do every month. Zero behavior change required. But Cred added rewards, a beautiful interface, and a feeling of accomplishment for something that used to feel like a core. Now, Kunal Shah's own words, and this is the quote to remember: the best products make existing behavior delightful, not change behavior entirely. The third one is trust as moat, unfair advantage. A 750 plus credit score isn't just a gatekeeper, it's a true signal. Cred looked at this audience and said, these are the most credit-worthy people in India. No one else has them, and they built an entire premium merchant ecosystem around that. Brands wanted to access Cred users because Cred had already done the filtering. So the lesson here for us is uh, not about the credit cards per se. It's about this very important thing, that find a boring existing behavior that millions already do. Don't change the behavior, right? Add delight, add status, and own the infrastructure layer around it. That's how you build a $6.4 billion product on a habit people already had, right? All right. So before we go any further, I need you to understand the ground you're standing on right now. Because if you're building products in India today, you're not late, you're not early, right? You are in the absolute golden window, I will say. Let me walk you through the last decade, and every date here matters. Okay, let's talk about what happened in 2015. Flipkart hits a $15 billion valuation. And why does this matter? Because before 2015, investors and founders weren't sure if consumer internet could actually scale in India. Flipkart proved it. It proved that Indians would buy online, pay online, trust online. That unlocked everything. Look at what happened in 2016. This is the year the entire market shifted overnight. Geo launches. Reliance Jio, 500 million people got affordable data. Let that sink in first. 500 million people came online, many of them with a smartphone in their hand for the first time. The cost of data actually crashed. The addressable market for your product exploded. Then 2 years later, 2018, the wave of deep problem solvers arrives, right? We had Swiggy, Ola, Paytm, Cred, Zepto. These are not just feature copiers. These are companies that looked at uniquely Indian problems and built uniquely Indian solutions. This is when India stopped copying Silicon Valley and started writing its own playbook. 2020, of course, COVID hits, and instead of breaking the ecosystem, it accelerates 5 years of digital adoption. into 5 months. Every Indian business, the kirana store, the tuition teacher, the family doctor was forced online. User habits formed, that would have taken otherwise half a decade. Digital payments, online ordering, remote work, all normalized in months. And that was the new normal. 2024, fast forward, India is now the world's third largest startup ecosystem. And we have witnessed that, right? Third largest. We're in 2026, May. So behind, you know, only the US and China. That's it. Over 100 unicorns. And here's the kicker. AI native products are emerging everywhere. And it's not just in Bangalore, in Jaipur, in Indore, in Kochi, any tier two city if you take, right? So the point of the slide is simple. You are building products in the most exciting, product decade India has ever seen. The infrastructure is here, the users are here, the capital is here. The question is, are you going to build something worth the time? I think you got motivated enough. Okay. So this slide is like your, you know, uh, I'll say just take the screenshot of it. Okay. Okay. This is the slide you put on your wall. Okay. So this is Alex Hormozzi's value equation adapted from the product design, and it is ruthless. Here it is. Okay. Value equals, and here's the formula: dream outcome multiplied by perceived likelihood divided by time multiplied by effort. Write this down. Value equals dream outcome multiplied by perceived likelihood divided by time and effort. Okay. So there are four variables, there are four levers here. Okay. Two go on top, you want to increase them, and two go on bottom. You want to actually reduce, right? You want to reduce effort, you want to reduce the time, right? To decrease them. So get this wrong and your product dies. Get this right, you can charge premium prices. Let's start with the first lever, dream outcome. Increase this. What is the transformation the user actually wants? Not the feature, not the tool, the life after. Okay. Nobody wants a drill. They want a hole in the wall. Nobody wants your app. They want to feel confident or save time or look smart. Your entire product narrative should point at the transformation. Let's look at the second lever, perceived livelihood. Increase this. Do they actually believe your product will deliver the dream? That's a question that you should ask. This is where social proof matters. Reviews, case studies, clean design, a polished onboarding, every signal, that says this works, trust me. If they don't believe it, the value is zero, no matter how good your product actually is. The third lever is very simple, time to result. Decrease this, how long before they see value? Faster equals higher perceived value. And this is why Zepto wins 10 minutes, not tomorrow, not in an hour, 10 minutes. Every second you make them wait, you are dividing their perceived value. Fourth lever, effort and friction. If you decrease this, how hard it is to use? That's a question should come in mind. And here's the brutal, truth. Every extra step in your onboarding, every extra field in your form, every extra decision they have, to make halves or let's say reduces your conversation. Okay, it halves it. Ruthlessly reduce friction. If they can get value with one tab instead of three, you win. So remember, multiply the dream, multiply the belief, divide by the time, divide by effort. That's your value equation. And that's your pricing power. That's your retention. So if somebody today asks you or tomorrow asks you, what's your value? I think this is the equation that you will always remember. Yes, Alex or Mozi, thank you. So let me be a little blunt here. If you're designing on a 27-inch, monitor first, you're designing for yourself. Okay, not for India, because in India, 75% more than 3 out of 4 users will open your product on a mobile screen first. I hope you understood the analogy, and that's the true story. 75% start there, start on the phone. If it doesn't work on a small screen, it doesn't work. Period. That's it. And here's your constraint, the 5 screen rule. If your product needs more than 5 screens to deliver its core value, you have built too much. You're not building the next Facebook, on day one. You're building one habit, one loop, one moment of value. 5 screens, that's it. So let me walk you through the 5. Screen 1 is the home screen. You have 3 seconds. 3 seconds to communicate your core value proposition. One primary call to action, not two, right? Not three, just one. No clutter, no explore our features sort of thing. No carousel of, 5 banners. One button that tells them exactly what to do next. Screen 2, core action. This is the main thing the user, came to do. Minimal steps. If they came to send money, they should be able to send money in 2 taps. If they came to revise a chapter, the chapter opens instantly. Autofill where possible. Don't ask them to type what you already know. Of course, you can't compromise with the privacy and security, but that is possible actually here to build, 2-step things, right? Screen 3 is result or reward. Show them what they achieved. Make it feel good. This is your delight moment. The payment confirmation, the quiz score, the streak animation. This is where the dopamine hits. Skip the screen and you skip the reason they come back. Screen 4, profile in progress. Track their journey, show streaks, show scores, show history. Why? That's a question. Because investment builds retention. The more data they see they have put into your your product, the harder it is for them to leave. This is the sunk cost fallacy. Okay, the cost which you have, it is gone actually, right? And it's your friend. So screen 5, settings and help. Keep it simple, accessible, not buried under 3 menus. You must have seen even today, you won't get that help button or that final help or customer care call button, right? So keep it under 3 menus. Users shouldn't need it often, but when they do, it must exist. Frustrated users who can't find help, delete your app. 5 screens, that's your MLP boundary. If you need screen 6 to prove value, go back to the drawing board. Okay. So let's talk about the invisible thing that kills more products than bad UI ever will. Okay, we will talk about the information architecture. In short, we'll call it as IA. And this is the skeleton of your product. And on this slide, we are using Study AI as our live example, and you can see it right there at the top. Okay, Study AI Home. Okay, get the IA wrong, information architecture, and no amount of beautiful buttons, no amount of AI, no amount of funding will save you. Because if Aryan Remember Aryan, our class 10th student from Jaipur. So if Aryan can't find what he came for, he doesn't blame your information architecture. He blames you and he opens Instagram instead. So look at the screen. This is exactly how Study AI's information architecture is structured, right? 3 tabs, not 10, okay? Just three. Tab 1 will be revise, tab 2 test, and tab 3 is track. Okay, let me just in fact show you. Yeah, you can see this, right? You can see those buttons. So it says hi Aryan. Okay, start today's. This is the wireframe that you actually see. Okay, there's a weekly progress, 82%, 24 quiz done. You look at that, the three. Very simple, right? So this has been generated using an AI, of course. Okay, very simple. So I can just tell you. So if you look at the revise part, it's all about flashcards, chapter list, quick review, you know. And then you may ask why these three, because Aryan came to revise before his, boards. Uh, that's his job to be done. Everything in the tab serves that single intent. Nothing else, belongs here. Nothing else, actually. Yeah. When you look at the test, the middle one, it should have quiz mode, mock test, weak topics, right? Because he wants to test himself. These are the three ways he does it. Okay. Notice what's deliberately not in this tab. There are no video lessons or leaderboard or an AI tutor chat. Those would break the skeleton. Wrong intent, wrong tab. Then if you look at the track, okay, which is all about progress, streaks, score history. And this is where Aryan sees his own journey, where he feels the investment he puts in, where attention is actually built. Now, there are three rules, and notice how Study AI follows every single one. Rule number one tap to core action. Aryan could never, hunt for that quick quiz. It's one tap away, not buried under, menus, the flashcards, the chapter list, all on one tap from screen. Rule number two, progressive disclosure. Show Aryan the simple quiz first, the basic review, advanced options, customer, timers, filter topics only appear after he trusts the product. Don't overwhelm him with power user settings on day one. He'll run. Rule 3, consistent back navigation. Aryan should always know how to undo or go back one level. So without thinking, the same back button in the same place, one every single time. Break this and you break his confidence. Take Google's any product, the UI. You will love it. Everything is so simple. And this is out of my personal liking I'm sharing. So remember, IA before UI, IA before UI, skeleton before skin. Study AI proves it. 3 tabs, one tab to value, progressive disclosure, content navigation, right? So get this right and everything else gets easier. Okay, so let's speed up a little. And here we are introducing a new concept in a very short manner. I would like to design a full course on this, right, a little later, but design thinking, let's discuss. These are 5 steps, 5 minutes I'll devote. Right, and this is the entire framework that you actually see. And every number in the order matters. Okay, introduced by Stanford University, in fact, and world across, a lot of people have used design thinking principles, design thinking process. What you see is the process here in their own manner. But fundamentally, what they said is right. It's it's empathize, right? What you see, it's the eye icon. What you see is the empathize. This means observe and listen. The meaning is understand the customer's pain. Okay, no assumptions, right? Talk to real users. That's the first. Don't talk to your mom, of course, not to your roommate, right? Real users. Go sit with Aryan, watch him revise at midnight, watch him panic, watch him open Instagram, instead of your app. And trust me, literally, sometimes you have to do. Empathize or empathy is not a buzzword, it's a forensic observation. Step two is define. Okay, Edipt. That's how I remember. So define, write a precise problem statement, one sentence, one user, not a paragraph, not a mission statement, one sentence that captures the exact pain. If you can't say it in one breath, you don't understand it yet. Step three is ideate. Generate 10 ideas before you judge one. 10. So quantity over quality here. Okay. More founders stop at idea two, fall in love and build garbage. So force yourself to 10. The first three are obvious, right, and 4 through 7 are all interesting, and 8 through 10, that's where the breakthrough lives. So no judging until you hit 10. Trust me. Step 4 is prototype. Build the cheapest version that tests your riskiest assumption. Not the easiest assumption, but the riskiest assumption. The one thing if goes wrong, understand it, one thing that goes wrong will kill your entire product. Okay, that's your riskiest assumption. Test that first. A paper sketches a prototype, of course. A WhatsApp message playing the role of your app is a prototype. Spend money later. Okay. However, today we have AI, of course, and that's how it is. You don't even have to resort to these old things, right? Just give a nice prompt and just wait for a few seconds without burning credits. Of course, if you're burning a lot of credits, there's no point. Use the free version and just see what it's. Then step 5, test. Put it in front of a real user. Watch. Don't explain, don't say. What you do is click here, then here. No. Right? It's very simple. Just watch them fail. If you just don't do anything. So take notes. The confusion is your roadmap. Now, and this is critical. The slide says it at the bottom. Right. This is non-linear. If you actually see, it's non-linear. Okay. You will loop. You will go from test back to define. Right. From ideate back to empathize. Okay. But that's not a failure. That's a process working correctly. And that's what we call design thinking. Okay. So let's get started. So I'm about to, save you from the single biggest trap that kills products before they breathe. The trap is this: opening Figma on day one, and do not do it, right? Please. I repeat, do not open Figma before, step one. Perfectionism kills products. and Figma is the ultimate perfectionism trap. You start moving pixels, and 3 hours later, you've designed a beautiful screen that solves nobody's problem. So here's a 3-step escape plan. 3 steps, right? Sketch on paper, of course. I think you should do that even today. Okay. Pen and paper. Draw boxes, label them, no measurements, no colors, no font selection, no, is this the right shade of blue? Just flow. 5 minutes max. Yeah. Set a timer, in fact. If your sketch takes longer than 5 minutes, you're designing, not thinking. The goal is to answer one question. Does the user get from opening the app to getting value in the fewest steps possible? Paper is honest. Paper doesn't let you hide behind gradients. Step 2, create a digital wireframe. Now you can open a screen, recreate your sketch in Figma, Whimsical, or this is the AI era hack. Just write a prompt to V0, right? Add basic spacing and labels. That's it. Still no color, no final UI. You're just making the boxes clearer so another human can understand the flow. The tools here is V0, Whimsical or Figma, uh, but only for wireframing and not for designing. Step 3 is vibe coded prototype, right? This is where it gets wild. You can use anti-gravity, you can use codex, you can use emergent. Okay, use emergent anti-gravity, okay, to turn that wireframe into a clickable working app in 90 minutes. And in fact, it will do everything. It's the final platform, final app, right? Trust me, not 30 days, 30 minutes. And you go from boxes on paper to a real screen that taps, scrolls, and feels alive. That is your prototype. That is the product. Now, the rule at the bottom of this slide, and this is, what you can say tattoo worthy, right? Never open Figma before you have done step 1. Never. If you open Figma first, you will obsess over corner radius while your core flow is broken. Paper first, always paper first. Perfectionism kills and speed saves them. So what you can do is just pause your video. Okay, very simple, because we are doing a live exercise right now, right? I want you to actually do it, not watch. Okay, do 10 minutes. Okay, and I've already shown you. You don't have to. So on paper, pen and paper, no Figma, no phone, no laptop, maybe. So your wireframing study AI home screen. Okay, I would suggest that think of your own idea and just do. That will be really great. Okay. In case of Aryan, if you're looking at class 10, Jaipur boards, maybe in 4 months, forgets 70 percent of what he studied. You're designing his home screen, and you have exactly 5 constraints. Every single one is non-negotiable. Okay, constraint 1 is maximum 5 elements on the home screen, not 6, that we've already discussed. Constraint number 2 is one primary CTA, that is call to action button. And so what's that? I mean, start today's quiz. That's a call to action. Okay, or it could be continue revision. It could be like quick flashcards. You have to pick the single most improvement action Aryan takes when he opens the app. One button makes it obvious. Constraint number 3 is username is visible. It has to feel personal. Hi, Aryan. Okay, not welcome user. Come on. And not student dashboard. Okay, his name, because this is his product and not a generic school portal from some 2004. Constraint 4 is clear navigation to revise, test, and track. Okay, those 3 tabs. those three jobs. He knows, you know, everything. So basically, instantly things should come to him. Okay, he should know where to go to revise, where to go to test himself, and where to go to see his progress. Just in one tap. Constraint 5 is show current streak prominently. The streak, the fire, right? The psychology RN has 12-day streak. Make sure he, sees that flame the the second he opens the app, right? The streak is the hook that brings him back tomorrow. Okay, you can see the example. This is one valid answer, not the only answer, but could be a good one. I've already shown you the way I took the help of AI and designed that, or got it designed, I will say. Right, but you can have your own way. So here, but if you look at it, says hi Aryan and this the collapsing symbol, right? Uh, with that fire emoji and a 12-day streak right next to it. Immediate personalization, immediate social proof of his own consistency. Then you can see the primary CTA, right? That play button. Start today's quiz. Big, bold, impossible to miss. That's a core action. And then at the bottom, if you see, there are three tabs to be navigated. One is revise, then test, and then track. Icons plus labels, clear as daylight. Okay, 5 elements, personal, 1 CTA, 3 tabs, streak visible. So you can pause the video now, set a timer for 10 minutes, draw your version, okay? Then come back and tell me, why did you pick that particular CTA? Put in comments, okay? I'll read it and respond maybe. Right, and why did you arrange all this in that way? Your answers do matter the most than mine. Okay. Uh, so look at this. Want to show you what financial execution, not financial, but sorry, fanatical. Every time when I say I use some other word. So if you're fanatic, that is the execution would look like. And when we talk about products, I think no other than we start with Apple, Steve Jobs. Okay, so three companies let's look at: Apple, Linear, and Figma. And the common thread is every single one of them chose one philosophy, one North Star, and they executed it so relentlessly that it became identity, not a feature. Identity. Talk about Apple, right? The philosophy in 3 words: reduction in the product, not addition, reduction. 3 rules. Rule 1: remove features until you can't remove anymore. They don't ship everything that fits. They ship only what must survive. Rule number 2: make the default state perfect. 90%, 90, right, of users never touch settings. Trust me, never. So if your default state isn't perfect, you have failed, right? Yeah, I mean, you buy a mobile phone and you don't want to change the font and everything, right? It's as it is. And trust me, majority of users, 90% of users will make it same. So it has to look really good. In fact, they don't even change the ringtone if I talk about the mobile phone, right? Okay, fine. So rule number 3 is every pixel communicates intent. White space is not wasted space. It is breathing room. It is confidence. It is Apple saying, we know exactly what matters and everything else is gone. You take the case of Linear and they measure it obsessively. P50 interaction time. What do you mean by P50? So when you do product design, there are a lot of priorities that you have to set. Okay, that's how the nomenclature. So P0 stands for something which is really, really urgent. Do it immediately. P50th means it's definitely not the urgent one. Okay, that's the median. The 50th percentile is under 100 milliseconds, under 100. It feels instant, not fast, instant. Okay. Second, keyboard first design. Power users don't click. They type, they move at thought speed. If your product forces a mouse, you're slowing them down. The third, opinionated defaults. No endless configuration. No choose your own adventure setup. It just works beautifully out of the box. Linear has opinions, and those opinions are correct. Figma. The philosophy is very simple. Collaboration is the moat. Not AI, not templates, collaboration. Okay. And they did three things that seem obvious now, but were radical then. One, real time multiplayer before it was mainstream. Google Docs did it for words, Figma did it for design. Two, they made design accessible to non designers without dumbing it down. That's a razor edge. Accessible but powerful, simple but deep. Three, every share creates a new user. Every Figma link, sent is product led growth baked into the product itself. They didn't need a sales team. The share button, okay, WAS, the sales team. Okay, very simple. So now look at the bottom of the slide. The common thread is, and you can read it with me, every one of them chose a philosophy and executed it fanatically. That's the lesson. Pick one thing, not three, not five, just one. And become so impossibly good at it that nobody can catch you. Apple chose reduction, Linear chose speed, Figma chose collaboration. What will you choose? Okay, so now we need to talk about the dark side because every beautiful product principle or we just covered, there's an equal and opposite anti-pattern that will poison your product, right? Destroy your trust and eventually kill your company. And I see founders making these mistakes every single day, right? Six of them, six traps, and every single one has a specific number attached that you need to, burn into your brain, right? So let's understand the trap one, and that's called the dark UX. Okay. This is manipulation dressed up in design. Okay. Three examples pre-ticked spam consent boxes. The user never actually agreed, but you claim they did. Unsubscribe links buried. Okay. 7 clicks deep. Seven. Yes. You know exactly what you're doing when you do that. And the free trial with zero cancellation reminder. You silently convert them to paid and hope they forget. This is not design, trust me. This is actually theft, with better UI. That's what I will tell. So please make sure that, you do take care of this. Trap number two is friction traps. Forced account creation before the user has seen even the product, right? They don't know if they want it yet. And you're already asking for their email, their phone, their mother's maiden name, six field forms for a simple request. Six fields, trust me. Every field is a drop off point and slow load time on, let's say, uh, 5G or 4G you're using, right? Because you're tested on Wi-Fi, maybe, in Bangalore, and you forgot that most of India, I think, is still right, needs to have a good coverage. Okay, while 5G is there, but 5G may not be working at every place. Please understand. So friction is not a gatekeeper. Friction is a filter that filters out everyone. Trap number three is feature bloat. Adding features every single sprint without removing anything, right? Your product becomes a junkyard. Users cannot find the core action anymore because it's buried under 17 menu items that three people asked for. So ruthless subtraction is harder than addition. So if you're not killing features, you're killing your product. Okay. Trap number four is false urgency, right? You must have seen people, I mean, the products when you hit, say, only two left. When you have 2000 in the warehouse, right? Countdown timers that reset when you refresh the page. Fake social proof notifications. Someone in Mumbai just got this. Uh, no, they didn't. Okay, you wrote a script, and the moment a user catches your lying once, you will never trust you again. So even if you're a starter, please go ahead and do that. Like I'm building AI-Praxis, and this is for the first time I'm doing. If you want to really sign up to any of the programs that we have, whether it is Founders Lab, Venture Lab, or even the Career Accelerator, there's a diagnostics that we have actually introduced. Okay, so you can take the diagnostics, see yourself, and then you'll have to sign up and do that. Even when you sign up, you don't have to pay because it is actually going to give you the results. You can then decide, right? So that's how it is very important. Trap number five is onboarding overload. A 10-step tutorial before the user has been decided, right? They want your product. 10 steps. Okay. Show value first, teach later. If I need a manual to open your app is broken. Trust me, it has to be completely intuitive in today's world, right? So the best onboarding is invisible. The user learns by doing, not by reading slides. I mean, have you ever read a manual to sign up a Google account? I'm sure not, right? So that's the point. Trap number six is notification spam. Pushing five notifications a day for zero user benefit. Five. Yes, you're not reminding them, you're actually harassing them. And here's the life cycle. First, they mute you. That's how they do. Then they disable notifications and then they uninstall. And they tell three friends, how annoying your app is. And you didn't gain engagement. You bought a one-star review. That's sad. Now, read the bottom line with me, because this is the philosophy that separates the unicorns from the graveyard. And the line is, the best products are honest, dark patterns win short term and destroy long term. Short term metrics will lie to you. The dark pattern will spike your conversion this week, and it will crater your brand forever. Build honest products. So, this is the slide where everything actually changes. This is a slide where I tell you that everything you thought you knew about building products just got rewritten. We are going to look at two eras, right, side by side. I've juxtaposed both of them. And the numbers here are so extreme that if I told you, this 5 years ago, you could have called me insane. Okay. So the before era 2010 to 2022, the old world, and it was brutal. First number, 6 to 12 months to ship a first version, half a year, a full year, just to get something into a user's hand. Second, you need a team of 5 to 10 people to build and design. 5 to 10, a founder, a designer, two engineers, a product manager, maybe a quality, assurance person. That's salary, that's coordination, that's meetings. Third, you prototyped in Figma, right? Then you build separately the prototype. And then you found the prototype was a lie. It was a movie. You still had to rebuild everything from scratch in code. Fourth, months of front end work for one screen. I think you're understanding the stresses where I'm giving. Months, one screen. And fifth, which is my personal favorite, user experience research meant hiring an expensive consultant who would charge you a fortune to tell you what your users think. That was the old world. That was the tax you paid to build anything. Now, the with AI era, 2023 onwards, we'll say, and buckle up because these numbers are real. First, one weekend to ship a lovable MLP, one weekend. Yes. Not 6 months, not 6 weeks, a weekend. 48 hours from idea to live product. Yes, and that's what I'm teaching in Founders Lab as well. While I've designed it for 20 days, because each day, we are spending 3 hours, and this is basically for school students, right? And they have multiple other activities also to do, but it's really important. So that's how. But otherwise, you can consume if you're really, honest. I've written a book also. You can buy and do that yourself. Okay. So yes, so 48 hours, you can start with an idea and live the product. That's it. Second, a solo founder can build, design, and ship. One person, no team, no coordination tax, no stand-up meetings, just you and AI, right? So third, the prototype is the product. Vibe coding. You don't design in Figma and then rebuild. You describe what you want, and the AI builds the working screen. The prototype ships. Fourth, a 30-minute emergent session equals a working screen. By the way, when I'm stressing on 30 minutes, I'm just trying to emphasize the fact that vibe coding, you have some experience, because even with emergent, with all due respect to it, I have used it multiple times. It will still take a lot of time to build, even on anti-gravity or maybe on Codex. Okay. So you have to first learn that, right, master yourself. When you're seeing that there are less hallucinations and you're getting the right results, then please go ahead and do that. But still, you can spend half a day, right? It's just like being engrossed in, playing a video game. I'm sure that's how we were brought up. Okay, fine. So 30 minutes, I was talking about, what used to take a front-end engineer 3 weeks now. It just takes one prompt and a coffee break. That's it. And fifth one is AI can synthesize 100 user reviews in seconds, not hours, not days, not seconds. The research that used to cost you 10,000 rupees and 2 weeks now happens before you finish a cup of tea. And in fact, if you just spend 1,000 rupees or maybe 2,000 rupees today in any of these AI tools, right, you can do wonders. Now read the bottom line with me. This is the new reality, and it's both liberating and terrifying, right? And what's that line is, and I'll read it for you. AI removes the build barrier. Because building used to take time, strategy, and everything. The only advantage left is taste, insight, and speed of learning. So think about that. The build barrier is gone. Anyone can build now. So that wins. Is that your taste, knowing what to build, your insight, knowing who to build it for, and your speed of learning. How fast you can iterate when the build time is zero. That's it. That's the new moat. That's the new unfair advantage. Not your engineering team, not your funding, it's your judgment. All right. So, this is the framework that ties everything together. And this is the AI-Praxis original framework. Right. We definitely tried and tested ourselves, and it actually gives good results. Right. Of course, we have used AI even to, advance the thinking process, but this actually works. The product, we call it as the product thinking flywheel, and let's call it as the product thinking flywheel, in fact. And I want you to see it not as a checklist, but see it as an engine, a cycle that feeds itself. 6 steps. Trust me, there are only 6 steps. And once this thing starts spinning, it accelerates. That's the magic of a flywheel. Okay. So let me, walk you around the circle. It's very important. And some of them are ovals. So step one, if you look at, is understanding the user. Just start from the top, right? Okay. And this is where it begins. So every spin, a single spin starts here. Understand the user, not with your idea, not with your technology, with the user, their pain, their behavior, their workaround, maybe at 11 p.m. If you skip this, you're pushing a flywheel that isn't anchored to reality. The second one is defining the problem. So define the problem. Be precise, be specific. Just be in one sentence, one user, not a vague market opportunity, a real human urgent problem, right? The question here is the problem clarity canvas. We did it in framework one. I mean, if you can just go and refer to that, that's your weapon here. If you move to step number 3, it's all about design the MLP, right? See, we have already skipped the MVP part. So the minimum lovable product and ruthlessly scope one problem, one user type, one core action, not the feature list of your dreams, right? It's just one, 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 and do it fanatically. If you remember, that's how I was using the term. So the smallest thing that delivers real, measurable, and a measurable value and makes somebody genuinely happy, right? Step number 4 is build and ship fast. Okay, weekend speed. That's it, not quarter speed. Vibe coding, emergent, anti-gravity, whatever you want to do, right? The tools we just covered. Ship it, get it dirty, get it into real hands, because a product in Figma is a hypothesis. A product in the wild is data. Step number 5 is measure and learn, right? So what happened? Did Aryan come back? Did he finish the quiz? Where did he drop off? Numbers don't lie. Users don't lie. Your assumptions actually lie. Measure ruthlessly and let the data teach you. Step 6, iterate and double down. Take what you learned, feed it back in, double down on what worked, kill what actually didn't. And then this is critical. Okay, so you spin the wheel again. So back to the understanding of the user, back to redefining the problem, back to, so it's because the flywheel will keep moving, right? Back to designing the next slice of the MLP, right? Each spin makes the next spin faster. That's the basic meaning, right? That's not just an improvement. That is compounding product advantage. Compound interest applies to applied to, in fact, the product management, product development, not management, product development. Okay, so let's read the bottom of the slide, right? 2 lines. First, each spin of the flywheel makes the next spin faster. That is very important, okay? And that's compounding product advantage. And the second one is, and tattoo this, somewhere is what I tell you. The flywheel never stops, okay? Great products are never done. Trust me, never done. You don't launch and coast. You launch and spin and again and again. That's the job. That was the product thinking flywheel. Okay, now take a deep breath. So we have covered an incredible amount of ground in this session. And I want you to leave here, knowing that you're not the same person who clicked play. You now own 5 frameworks. 5, yes. These are not concepts. These are tools. These are weapons. And every single one of them has a number, a name, and a specific job. Okay, let me hand them to you one last time. Framework 1 that was the problem clarity canvas, where we opened with 5 boxes, if you remember: who, what, why now, right? It was why now, in fact, how big, and there was a proof, right? And this is your pre-flight checklist. Before you write a single line of code, before you prompt a single AI, right, you fill this. It validates that your problem is real, specific, and worth solving. Framework number 2, jobs to be done, the JTBD. Just remember Clayton Christensen, professor, right? You can watch his video also um, on the YouTube. 3 parts, and there was this template. So there was a situation. I want to motivation, so I can, and there's this outcome. This kills your assumptions. It uncovers the real motivation behind why people do what they do, not what they say, what they hire your product to do. Then framework number 3 is very simple. That's the empathy map. 4 quadrants. The first one was the user thinks and feels, if you remember. The user sees, the user says, and the says and does together, and then the user hears. So deep user understanding, right? This reveals the gap between what users say and what they actually do. That gap is where your productivity, opportunity actually lives. It's very important. Okay. Then framework number 4 is the MLP design matrix. 4 columns. One is the must have, second one is should have, third one is nice to have, and then never. If you may recall, we took the example of, we took a lot of other examples, Priya and Rahul and many other people. But this one constant example that we were using was the study AI-RN, right? And the first 2 were actually tick marks, like must have. So this is your scope boundary for every single sprint. It decides what's in and what's out. It protects you from feature bloat. Feature bloat, yes. It keeps you honest. The fifth framework, right, is the value equation. Okay. Alex Hormozzi's formula. Just can Google it. It's very simple, right? 4 variables, 4 levers. I use the term. Value equals dream outcome times perceived likelihood. Okay. Divided by time, yes, multiplied by effort. 2 go up and 2 go down, which means 2 improves or increase and 2 reduce or decrease, right? This tests if your product is worth paying for. It quantifies perceived value. Very simple. 5 frameworks, you own them now. They are yours. Now look at the bottom of the slide, right? Yeah. And the tease here is the promise. Okay. Session session 2. Okay. Build with AI, wipe coding, anti-gravity, emergent. So we're going from thinking to shipping, from frameworks to fingers on keys. I'm definitely going to, give you this session as well. And we'll see how I'll try to make it as practical as possible. Okay. All right. So session 1 is almost complete, almost done. But I'm not going to let you just watch this and move on the next YouTube video. That would be a waste of your time, right? As I said. Okay. You have your homework, 3 tasks. And what I want you to actually do is not think about doing them, actually do them. Okay. Pen and paper, voice to friend, right? So there are 3 tasks. One problem, pick one, problem you personally care about, not 10, not 3, just one, and use the problem clarity canvas, all 5 boxes. Okay. The who part, who has the problem specifically, what, I'm just refreshing your memory. What is the exact pain? Why now? Why hasn't this been solved yet? If you remember, that was the question. How big? I mean, how many people have this problem? And the proof. What evidence do you have that this is real? There are 5 boxes, fill them. And if you can't fill all the 5, honestly, you don't have a product, you have a hobby. In today's AI era, you may be feeling that, oh, why should we actually do AI will do everything? Sorry, AI will not do everything. I'll tell you why, because it's a technology. It will work on the data that is available to it. Okay. And the data is not exactly data, it's completely noise in most cases. Okay. It has to find patterns and come up with. So all its answers will not be correct. You will have to use your brain. Think wildly. You can take AI as your partner, as your technology partner, maybe, right? Or founder, and just help amplify. Right. Task number two is one persona, right? So write the JDBD statement for your user and the formula we have already given. I'll not speak that again. And fill in those three blanks, right? And then this is the part that most people actually skip, right? Test it on a friend. Actually say it to another human being. If they look confused, your statement is broken. If they nod immediately, they are onto something. One friend, one conversation, right? That's your validation. Task number three is one MLP sketch. And I said, pen and paper. Please use pen and paper, right? Because I'm sure you would have been fed up just typing. Use it, right? Not Figma, not AI, pen and paper. And the home screen. And you have constraints, right? The constraints are those maximum 5 elements, if you remember, on that screen, right? One primary CTA, username should be visible, clear navigation, all that, streak or progress shown prominently. And you have 5 minutes max. Set a timer. If your sketch takes longer than 5 minutes, you are designing, not thinking, right. Bring it to session number 2. So that's where I put an end. Thank you very